Okay, testing 1, 2. Hi everyone. Today I'm going to do something fairly straightforward and just offer you my top 10 technical tips for vlogging. If you're wanting to take that step up from a smartphone, you are probably thinking about a large sensor DSLR, and I think that makes sense. I think everybody likes to see the background out of focus, shallow depth of field, and you can only get that with a reasonable size sensor. I think the first thing that you need to think about would be sensor size, and that's what the shallow depth of field all comes down to basically. The cheapest way to do that is to buy a DSLR or mirrorless compact system camera that takes interchangeable lenses. I'm shooting this on a Panasonic GH4, and that's about as small a sensor as I would want to work with, really. So the next thing that impacts depth of field and getting that large sensor look is your lens choice. So currently I have a Leica 1.4 25mm lens. Basically, what you want is a camera with a really wide aperture if you want that shallow depth of field look. If you want to just separate yourself from the background a bit, keep yourself in focus and get the background a bit out of focus, you need something with a 1.8 aperture or 1.4 aperture. For APS-C, that's the kind of cheaper Canon and Nikon, the cheaper Sony cameras. For this kind of format, just a portrait type shot, you want about a 50mm, and you can get those cheap as chips for Canon and Nikon. It's annoying because it's a very, very basic, simple feature, but not many of the cheaper hybrid cameras have it, and that is a headphone jack. And you really shouldn't be shooting video if you're wanting it to come across as professional without monitoring the audio. Sound, particularly for vlogs, is by far the most important thing. It completely outweighs anything to do with the image. People will look at a blurry pixelated Skype image, but if the sound is bad, they will turn it off. And it's the same for telly, for video, for everything. You need to get the sound right, and to make sure that's happening, you need to monitor your audio, so you need to be able to hear what is happening through headphones. Not using headphones is like not looking at the LCD screen on your camera when you're shooting video. It just doesn't make sense. So I really recommend a headphone jack. Unfortunately, a lot of consumer cameras don't have it. So following on from the headphone jack, get a good microphone. For video, there's only one choice, I think, and that is the Rode VideoMic Pro. And that is because DSLR cameras almost invariably have very bad preamps inside them. Basically, if your preamps inside your camera are bad, it means you're going to get lots of noise, lots of hiss in the background, and the sound, however good your microphone is, it's not going to sound good. The way that the Rode VideoMic Pro gets around this is it has a boosted preamp that you can turn right up, so you can turn the levels on your camera right down so that the in-camera preamps aren't affecting the sound, and the Rode VideoMic Pro preamps take over. I would suggest you get one of those microphones, get the Rode microphone, buy a $20 mic stand and hang it above your head on a boom-like arm like I am now, and a 3.5mm extension lead of about 2 or 3 meters to run it to your camera, and then you're good to go. The one thing that I have that I put between the microphone and the camera. It's on top of the camera at the moment, so I can't show you, unfortunately, but it's a Beachtech MCC2, and basically what that does is it gives you little knobs to be able to change the levels from the microphone to the camera manually, and that is a really big help because it's a nightmare going into your camera's menu system and then changing the levels, and this just allows you to do it, and it works brilliantly with the Rode. I really recommend it. More important than sensor size or lens choice for the image is lighting, and you really can't ever underestimate the importance of lighting for getting a good looking image. Just a fairly soft big light is good. I think the best cheap thing on the market is, you can get these from Amazon and eBay. I think it's a Chinese company called Yongnuo. It's just a very bright light. It's dimmable, so you can choose how bright it is, and it's got like what are called barn doors on it that can kind of shape the light, direct it a little bit. But they can also be used if you put a piece of paper on it, just peg a piece of standard A4 paper onto the barn doors, and you've diffused that light, and you have control over what you do. Just stick it on a little mini tripod on your desk. Just with that one light, you have lots of options, and you can just play around. So the Yongnuo is called the YN-300, and then 3 in Roman numerals. So of course the other thing that's essential is a tripod. I just think, forget about camera movement. If you're filming yourself, if it's just you talking on camera, to your audience, no one wants to be distracted by arty, fancy camera moves or clever editing. Yeah, it's an essential piece of kit, really. Something I've learnt about for vlogging specifically that I think is really useful is probably only available in newer camera models. The GH4 does it, and I think Canon, many other cameras, is Wi-Fi, and the ability to see what you're doing on camera. Don't know if you can see, but basically I'm able to control the camera from here on my iPad, and you can get the Panasonic image app for Android, and I just think it's just really handy to be able to see exactly what's on camera, and also to control it from a bit of a distance. I can press record, I can stop record, I can change my white balance and ISO. It can function as a teleprompter and a note taker. It's just a really useful bit of kit. It's not an essential, but if you have a smartphone anyway, why not? So I'm not actually sure how many that is. I haven't counted. I would say that finally, when it comes to editing, I use Final Cut Pro 10, and I think it's a brilliant software package, but for vlogging it's complete overkill. I just think just use whatever you've got, and when it comes to transitions, just use jump cuts, just no blurs, no transitions, just cut. And I do think that editing is worthwhile. I do think that something useful is you learn to talk in a way you are going to be able to cut later. You can start saying things again, you can have really long pauses, and you can edit them out, and you can just say whatever you like, and it makes you feel more comfortable in front of the camera knowing that you're going to edit later, and you don't feel the pressure to say something interesting. Just cut, and don't do anything fancy, just cut. It's all that's needed. Yeah, and I think that's about it, and I really do think that's kind of all you need, to be honest. I hope that some of this might be helpful to anyone. If you have any questions, or you think I've missed out something essential, then let me know. Thanks.